you were around in the beginning stages of comic digital coloring. And so, like, if there's anybody that can walk around with this swole head, well, hey, this is how it should be done, it's you.
And it has, that's part of being a professional, right? You can't. I know that I'm not above a character like Darth Vader or any of the other characters within that storyline. So, just trying to do my best.
You picked a Jim Lee, which is cool, because obviously Jim Lee got famous drawing Wolverine and everybody, right? And so,
that's right.
But you never worked with Jim during those days where he was working with Marvel. So this is a cool time right now where we can get some Jim Lee, and it looked like he did the inks on that too, right?
Yeah, so this is one of his Twitch stream sketches from a couple of years back.
Okay.
And so, I think part of the first step that I go through is looking at the art and trying to decide what colors I'm going to use and why am I going to use those colors. And so, with a piece like this, you also have to kind of analyze the drawing, and it's Wolverine's walking through water or some kind of liquid. With this background, there's these cool little kind of fog effects coming off the water. And so right off the bat, I'm thinking that I'll do some cool kind of fade out effects there. Maybe play with some reds and some blood coming off the claws into the water and kind of rippling away. And then also the second thing is just like, all right, what costume is this, right? So you're gonna have to figure out which. This is the yellow, the blue. So that'll be cool if we pick out a different color with that'll pop these two, the yellow and the blue. So that red starts to play a little bit better. I think if it was a brown costume, I would shy away from the red, just because it would be value-wise to compete too much within itself. And so what you're seeing me do is this first step is called the flatting process, where I kind of go through and I encircle everything with this lasso tool. And then I use a bucket tool to fill with the color. And so let's grab the yellow that I'm going to use on his costume first. And then we'll go in and we'll grab his claws. And this first process is probably the most, not necessarily tedious, but it really is the easiest one, in that you're just kind of going through and selecting and filling with a flat color. And that's why it's called the flats. Because I'll take those flats and I'll save a version of them in an alpha channel, and some folks even save them as layers in case that I need to go through in the editing process and figure something like that out.
So these lines you're making with the mouse, is that you tracing the lines with the mouse? Is that what's happening right there?
Yeah. So I'm clicking my pen through kind of the middle of the inks, and as I'm doing it, this is kind of what's going to encircle the areas that I'm going to fill with the color. And then what I'll do is I'll turn off the inks for you, so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. So if you were to zoom in and turn off the inks, this is kind of what I'm doing underneath it.
You're giving it a base pretty much, right?
Yeah, so I'm not affecting the inks at all. I've set up the file so that the inks exist on a separate plane, and that way I don't mess with the inks at all. Obviously, we want to make sure that we don't mess with Jim's inks. I don't know who would want to or why.
And how long does a flatting process take usually for a cover or something like that?
A page or a cover usually takes about an hour, maybe a little bit less than that. Some take more, some take less, of course, depending on how busy it is. I tend to average an hour at the most. I also use flatters, so I have folks that I hire and pay as freelance artists to come in and do the flatting for me. In that doing so saves me that hour or so per page. So on a 20-page book, I'm saving myself 20 hours worth of work, and it allows me to spend those 20 hours either rendering or picking up another project, kind of a thing. And so I have 2 to 3 different folks that I hire to do the flatting for me. On a piece like this, it's super easy. So the flats are going to take, 15, 20 minutes. In fact, we're almost done with it. As soon as I hit his.
So are you just winging like these colors for the flats? You just already got in your head where you're going with this? You just know? You see it in your mind?
Yeah, so I'm definitely coming in and looking at it. All right, so like I said, I saved like a flat version of the colors so that I can edit easily, and then just kind of go from there. I'm gonna start kind of playing with how I'm gonna approach this. I like to start with the skin for the most part, and that's just my preference. There's no rhyme or reason. Some people do background to foreground with covers and pinups. I like to do the figure first and then the background around it, since that's what you want to pop. And I'm gonna kind of bring in some of that red from the background into here. And then I just, start rendering, highlighting. Right now I'm doing the reflective light, so that the light that's from behind him in the background is what I'm kind of bringing into the skin here. So now I'm rendering, and I kind of render like I would paint on a canvas. I move my way around the whole piece. So I just don't do his face only and then his arm only. I'm playing with the highlights because I want to make sure that the highlight on his bicep isn't stronger than the one on his face, because my light source is up here in the upper corner, right? The light's going to dissipate as it moves down the body, or as the body moves away from the light. That highlight's going to get less intense.
You're coloring. Is this a mouse you're using? What are you?
It's actually, I'm on a Cintiq. It's a Wacom computer, so I'm using a stylus, basically like a pen, and so I'm drawing directly on the screen. And so definitely a huge step up from when we first started doing this years ago, where there were no Wacom tablets. We were really just using the mouse, which was, the equivalent of drawing with a rock tied to your pencil. Yeah, it feels like I'm on a drafting table. So the monitor that I'm drawing is at an angle that replicates what would be a drafting table angle. And so I'm just drawing straight onto the screen. So it's a lot like just drawing on paper. I'm just doing it on here.
Oh. So you could go do this outside if you wanted to right now.
Not with this equipment. So this is actually it's a 27-inch monitor. So that's
wow.
But lately, with the iPads and programs like Procreate, sure, I could put it on that and color outside, color in the living room, color on a plane. There's a lot of that now going on, in that we're spoiled and we can do our work anywhere. So I'll throw in a little bit of shadow. I'll use soft edge brushes first, kind of like an airbrush, to do the subtle transitions of color. And then I'll come in with this, the style that I've been using lately is this. You can kind of see the brush here. It's a triangular shape. And then I also use a square brush, and they kind of have like marker properties, and it gives me these cool little striations or shapes of color. It's a style that's different from what we used to do back in the 90s. We used to use the gradient tool a lot with the lasso tool, and now this for me is a little bit more painterly, and so that's why I like using this style a little bit more, but I can definitely shift back to that if I need to.
What's the most challenging project you had to work on, where it was like a pain in the butt from start to finish, but you're like happy that you were a part of it?
Black as Night, for sure. That's been the hardest project I've ever worked on. There was, multiple light sources of multiple colors. Have different lanterns with their different colors firing up all the time, and so keeping track of the light sources for something like that was very hard. And then throw in there an artist like Ivan Rice, who is super detailed, solid structure, everything's perfect, and that means that you got to keep track of all that lighting, and now you got to make sure that you render it perfectly, because he did the same. Him and and Eau Claire did such a great job with the pencils and inks that I couldn't slack off. I had to kind of come in and pick up the baton from them and turn into just as good of work as they did.
But going back to this piece now, I'm seeing a little like shimmer and
bonkers
or something on the shoulder of the Wolverine. Now you added some more dimension to this piece.
These colors that are here are my main colors that I'll use, and then underneath that you'll see that I started to just kind of compile like a Venom palette. There's a Star Wars palette. There's Superman is here. So as the series continues, I'll start to add more and more swatches of color, depending on the characters that show up regularly. So that if right now in the Star Wars one, I have Darth Vader's colors, his TIE fighter colors. I have the X-wing colors. I've colored Luke in his X-wing outfit, so that's there now. So those things, as I come across them, I create the palette, because for me, consistency is a huge thing. And like I mentioned before, especially for a company like Lucasfilm that really thrives in that consistency, and so that I'm creating these palettes so that if they like what I did, I know that they're going to keep getting the same result from me. One of the things that I like to do that a lot of artists don't do or colorists don't do is I don't only color highlights, but I like to come back in and actually paint back in certain things, like, if Jim's painted in these folds, you want to make sure that these folds look realistic, and so that you don't be happy with just putting down one or two highlights. Make sure you come back and complement that with some of your own kind of shading to make that look like a realistic glove.
And do you still have to use references for things, or do you just know, hey, that's how this folds now, or this is how that drapes?
For fabric, for the most part, I think I have enough of a library in my head that I can pull it off. But there's always something new. I'm a big fan of drawing what you see, and so that if I walk by a car and there's a really cool reflection on it, I'll take a picture of it, because I'm like, I got to use that in the book later on. And so that's kind of the mentality that I used to approach my colors. I work with a lot of artists that are very realistic, and so that's I do base a lot of what I do on real art or real things that I've seen. And this is where we're kind of going into a little bit of the experimentation of what I'm trying to do with the piece, and where you see that I go experimental a little bit more painterly as I'm kind of feeling my way through the piece.
Jim would be very happy with your rendering of this.
I hope so.
You've, pretty much exclusively colored his work. You guys are just numb to each other at this point, right? Are you impressed still? Is he impressed? Do you still look back and be like, oh wow, that's good? Or does he go to you and be like, man, you did a hell of a job right there?
I still stare at him as he does a 2-second sketch at a convention, right? Look over and you're like, God, guy, I swear. And it's cool in that when we're working on something together, he'll send the pencils to Scott and I to look at. And then Scott will send the inks, and then I send the colors, and we're always just kind of keeping each other in the loop of what we're doing. So it's always cool because we share with each other, and it's a true collaboration in the collaborative process. And that's my favorite thing about working in comics, is that it's all of us kind of coming together and saying, this is us, right? It's not just Jim or just Scott or just me. It's the three of us. This is what we can do. Obviously, both Jim and Scott are amazing artists in their own right, and can probably pull off a full piece on their own. So it's cool to know that they still want, me to be part of that team.
When you complete this, will you end up just texting Jim, hey, I just did this, check it out?
Yeah, well, I texted him before this saying, hey, you mind if I use one of your Twitch drawings? And he was cool with it. So that's I definitely want to make sure that he's happy with it.
And so, and this is all artistic interpretation because this was just a straight kind of sponge down black background, right? And using the white negative space. But then you decide to put Wolverine in a bloody pool. Or let's say, have you ever had something like this, right? Where it's kind of minimal background with just kind of the character in the forefront, right? Have you ever had a cover like this where you did this much interpretation?
Yeah, they've actually sent sketches to me before saying, hey, Jim did a sketch of this years ago. We need a variant for X book, and can you paint a space cape to go with this Green Lantern sketch? I'm like, sure. So I'll just paint a space cape, drop the Green Lantern in, and add some special effects and cover.
I wondered what you were going to do with the background, and I just thought you were just going to just make it blue and red and just leave it at that. And so right now you're working on like with the outermost layer right now.
Yeah. So what I'm doing is I've now taken the inks and put them on a layer above the color. People ask me if I work in multiple layers. When I do the initial rendering, if you noticed, I stayed on one layer, and then once I'm done, I'll put the inks into a layer, and then I'll put layers on top of that so I can start doing some of the special effects. So what I'm doing is I'm taking a little bit of the blue and making it fog out the water, kind of misting up towards the we're actually almost done here.
You are the Houdini of hue. This is insane.
So what are you thinking now? So like when do you think when do you say that this is like done? Oh, I'm seeing the Sinclair.
What?
That's how you know he's done. Somebody put a cape on this man like James Brown. Somebody put a cape on this man like James Brown right now. We need to get the fire extinguisher and cool down that Wacom Cintiq he has over there. Alex, okay, can you show them a before and after, please?
I mean, it doesn't even matter. Oh my God, look at that.
Wow.
Woo. Alex, you did your thing, man.
Can you do it one more? There it is. One more. Oh my goodness. Wow. Sinclair.